All right, here we go. Hey everyone, welcome to the show. Here we have NORMHUNTER episode 4 with National Master Todd Bryant, aka StrongChess. How's it going, Todd?
It is going good. Good to see you, Kostya. It was another successful week of studying. I think that we're 3 weeks into the training plan now, and I generally feel good from like doing a little hard work on chess every day during that period. I feel relatively sharp and integrated with chess. So yeah, so far so good.
Glad to hear it. So you've been working through these two books. I have your training plan up on the screen here. Solving problems through Perfect Your Chess, which is definitely testing your calculation, and going through game by game of this book, How Karpov Wins, which we felt like was just a good choice for you personally to kind of round out your style a bit and show you more of a positional game. Hey, Dortom, thanks so much for the sub. Um, so yeah, give us an update. So it says you've solved 107 in Perfect Your Chess. Does that mean you're done with the first section, or how long is that?
So that should mean that I'm about to finish the first section because the first section you have a lead in that's like 28 examples from his games.
Gotcha.
And then you have 100 graded problems. So I'm about to finish that first set of 100. Yeah, so I have a page of 6 problems that I'll do tonight, and then the final page of 5, and then the first set of 100 will be done. So this final group of problems in the last set of 100 are like supposed to be problems appropriate for testing like even GMs. He says, and a lot of them have been quite difficult. There have been a couple of problems in there, as I was telling you before the show, where like there was just some idea that I never would have considered. Like, no matter how long I had started the position, and even if you had told me that there's some crazy idea in the position, I just never would have found them. So some of those puzzles have been quite impressive. I have been still managing to bat just under 50% with some of the puzzles. Some of the more like clear tactical ones I've been able to solve, but there have been a lot of really impressive ideas creeping in there as well.
Nice. Yeah. Now, when you say 50%, does that mean for all of the problems you've solved?
Yeah, like 50% over the last week. So I think that out of like 36 attempted, I had like 16.5.
Gotcha.
I give myself zero point 0.5 for some of the puzzles if I come up with like the right first move but a wrong follow up.
Sure.
Um, uh, so yeah, at the beginning, like the first 20 or so, I was scoring near to 100%, and it kind of declined from there as the puzzles got harder.
Gotcha. Yeah, I remember the last part was like really tough. I mean, I think when I was going through the book, I was getting very few of them, if any. But of course, going through the solutions is like super instructive. Actually, maybe we could pull up the maybe the Gristrick puzzle you were showing me. We could share
Yeah,
with the crowd because I thought this one was really cool. Um, we well, let me make you a student on the board, and then you should be able to put in an FEN if you can get it, or you can do the whole PGN actually.
yeah. Let me just grab it here so I have it saved in my studies. And yeah, I was telling you before we started streaming that Grisha commented on this move that he played that this was like probably the best move that he's ever played in his whole life.
Right.
But you never really know if Grishik is saying it. There's some chance that it was sarcasm. So
Yeah, I mean he could have been talking about like a bullet game. Actually, it's funny. Just the other day, I was watching the replay to. I was watching the final of the Magnus Invitational, which was Magnus versus Naka, and Grischuk said that the previous day's match, Magnus versus Ding, he said it was the best match he had ever seen. And he was like, "I'm serious." It's like in terms of the quality and like the intensity. It's like, I mean, it was an interesting match, Magnus versus Ding. I thought it was really, but like I don't know.
yeah.
He didn't even qualify. He didn't even say like online match or blitz match. He's like best match of all time. So that was pretty funny. Okay, so
All right.
this was one of the problems from this book, Perfect Your Chess. And what is the title of the first chapter?
Make a move.
Make a move. Okay. And so the point of all these problems is to find the best move in the position. There's usually some kind of tactical or dynamic theme involved, like some kind of concrete line you're supposed to find. Sometimes it's like can be a strategic idea as well. But the thing that was always like kind of unique about these positions was that for every single problem, there was like exactly one best move, and everything else is like often just bad. So sometimes it's like, okay, you have maybe a secondary move that's kind of okay, but there's usually like one clear best move, which I thought was pretty cool. So maybe you want to take us through like what you thought about this problem originally.
Yeah, I mean, I think that I was just looking at normal things, like, okay, so rookie 1 is natural, but it hangs material, and I was looking at, you know, stuff like knight f4 and queen takes d6, you know, just kind of stuff like that. And I frankly wasn't sure what was going on here that was so special. I think I ended up playing something like queen takes d6 or something just boring that doesn't do anything special.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I definitely don't remember going through this one. I would have imagined that my candidate move was like knight f4, and I probably convinced myself that like, okay, white is like slightly better after queen g3 fg, and then that was probably the end of my calculation. So take us through the solution. What did Grischuk play and why?
Yeah, so he plays this amazing move. This is one of these ideas that I never would have considered. He plays this move rook f1. So the idea of this move is that after the queens are traded on g3, this rook on f1 and the bishop on a2 are going to have a lot of pressure on this point f7, and there are these subtle tactical threats. We also renew for the moment the threat of playing queen takes d6, because after queen takes c3, our rook will not be hanging, and this bishop on g6 will be hanging. So there's some pressure on black now to do something about the d pawn or to trade the queens. So black in the game plays this. Actually, Adams makes several mistakes here. Apparently, there were many chances for him to hold the game, but Bullock Eaton made some comments in the explanation that a lot of times brilliant ideas like put your opponents under pressure, and they sort of induce blunders. And he
Right.
had some quip about like a collection of best games being a collection of your opponent's worst games, but they're kind of one and the same. So
Yeah.
queen takes g3 is not best here, but this is what black played.
No, that's really interesting. So yeah, actually, someone in the Twitch was asking like, oh, is it like bishop takes f7 or something? And the thing is, it's like, yeah, these bishop takes f7 tactics, they're not simple, but like a lot of times they're pretty straightforward and they're not that special. Like here, okay, it doesn't work. King takes f7 and there's no follow up, but maybe there's sometimes like a special follow up, like you have a check and a knight g5 and something something something, it ends up working. And I would say those combinations are like, you know, compared to like this stuff, is like, it's like almost like they're just like pedestrian, just like very very simple. Whereas
Yeah.
like a move like rook f1 is just like, it's not thematic, it's not a candidate move, it's not anything. It's just like, it's just a very very concrete decision that, okay, gets the rook out of attack with queen takes c3 and sets up the rook for queen takes g3, kind of like, yeah, it just messes with black's options. So it's such a nettlesome move. Like it just poses problems.
By the way, it should be mentioned that bishop takes f7. It almost looks like it works. Okay, so the bishop can't take because the queen would be hanging. And after this, you almost have this move, right? Because this is a blunder, but queen takes g6, of course, holds everything together. So it looks for a second like bishop takes f7 is tempting, but it doesn't work out here.
Yeah. So yeah, let's break this one down a bit. So after rook f1, does white actually have a threat? Because white could have played knight f4 in this position. Black would take. We're threatening the bishop, but bishop f5, and I guess nothing special. Black is playing like rook c8 next move, hitting this guy, and has very decent counterplay.
Yeah, he gives this as equal in the book.
But if we go rook f1, oh, we're threatening queen takes d6, like you mentioned.
Exactly, and the bishop on g6 hangs.
And that's a pawn. Yeah, and then right, queen has to stay here, but also we would be threatening knight f4 in that position and hitting. So if like rook c8 or something, we take on d6. Black can't take on c3 with anything. I see.
Right, yeah, because the knight on e5 is hanging to checks on d8, and there's a bunch of threats suddenly.
Mm-hmm. Knight c4 is a move, but also looks unpleasant after knight f4. Take, and then black can't move this knight because g6 is hanging.
Yeah, that's true. If knight e3, I guess we have rook f3, and then we take on g6.
Yeah, I was thinking even just taking on g6 right away, but actually I think rook f3 or rook e1, yeah, it's just going to be cleaner.
Yeah.
So that would mean that black has to do something like rook c8 here. And there might be something just immediately concrete with this diagonal, but minimum it feels like black is under some serious pressure.
Yeah, I was looking at if knight d5 is strong here, or knight takes g6. There's this pin, but we can't immediately exploit it.
I kind of like this one, and then rook b1. And the idea is if b6, rook b4, d5, rook b5.
Oh, this looks nice. Yeah, this looks like we're gonna.
If rook d8 we're taking, which is
Or
nice.
taking on d5, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I think it's actually kind of feels kind of drawish after knight e3.
It might have been better than knight f4, perhaps.
Oh, the knight f4. Oh, here.
Yeah, after knight c4, maybe something better than. Like what about h5?
Oh,
like
h5.
in the game?
Yeah, that's a nice one. Okay, let's say bishop h7 looks like only move.
But does this possibly... I think I can chase your... Oh, maybe I had this before. Can I chase your bishop now?
Oh, right.
Yeah, maybe I had this instead of h5. d1.
Oh, yeah, that's
Knight
actually
b2.
pretty...
Yeah, rook e1. And now here I have like a knight f4 or something.
Yeah. Okay, that's actually pretty easy. So somehow I was expecting a very subtle solution. Okay, so that's why knight c4 is bad. Nice. So the book says rook d8 was the best defense, just defending the pawn.
Yeah, and he actually suggests like a repetition now with queen g4. I guess this is threatening knight f4 now. Queen f5, and back.
Gotcha. But yeah, rook d8 is not an easy move to play at all.
Yeah.
Most players, they have it ingrained in them that they should be just counterattacking something rather than simply defending in such a kind of open, somewhat chaotic position.
Right, yeah, you're tying this rook down to this weak pawn, and it looks a little unpleasant.
Right. So then the game went queen takes g3, fg, rook c8, which is another mistake.
Yeah,
h5.
Exactly, yeah. And so now we have this idea of the fork on the 5th rank.
Oh, this one.
Yeah, rook f5 is coming on bishop takes h5.
Wow, nice.
Yeah, this is very tricky. Um, and I was wondering, this move bishop h7 wasn't mentioned um, in the book, and I had to take some time to try to understand this position. But here, once we take on f7, I wasn't sure which way was best. But we take on f7 with the bishop, and now king h8, and this position is like plus 1 million. Um,
Mm-hmm.
It's like plus 9 or something. And White just plays a bunch of slow moves, but he has such a huge clamp that that Black is just dead. Like Bishop e6 comes in a lot of lines, and this is just some disaster.
I mean, that's definitely surprising. I mean, not so much because I know, like, yeah, when Stockfish just sees like back rank mates and stuff, it's like, okay, plus 10. So I guess this is just extremely bad for Black. It does look troublesome. I would, I probably would have put it like plus 1.
Yeah, yeah,
to be honest. But yeah, plus 9 is like, it's pretty intense. I'm just curious. So like, okay, rook c3, bishop e6,
Bishop e6.
and then g6. Oh, because otherwise Black is just getting mated. But like, this is an immediate threat. Knight g6.
Yeah, knight g6, and I'm covering c8 now. This is your problem.
Yeah, bishop g8, bishop f7, taking on g6. That's very cool. Okay, I think rook c3 though just feels cooperative. Like, let's say Black goes knight c4.
Okay, maybe I start with this move.
That's annoying. Yeah. Oh, then. Oh, this is just bad. You just have knight g6 again, yeah?
Yes, right? I have like this or something.
Yeah. Of course, with the pawn, very good. you know, always mate with the pawn. Okay, so yeah, then this is just huge for White. Interesting. So he goes bishop d3.
Yeah, it's like the most tenacious move, I guess.
Yeah, makes sense. Bishop f7, king f8, rook f2. It's interesting he didn't take with the rook. I guess maybe he was worried about like bishop c4.
Some interference, yeah. Yeah, this might be like serious actually. Maybe you lose a lot if this happens.
Like, well, rook takes, and yeah, Black just has nice counterplay.
Yeah, this knight is actually useful now.
Yeah, for sure. Although still mating ideas actually, so it could be bad. I don't know. But he takes with bishop, rook f2, king e7, bishop d5, rook f8, knight f4, and White had a big advantage. Yeah. Wow, nice. Okay, so yeah, you'll finish through these last like few GM problems and then back to, so then like the next section, the FM problems are probably just gonna feel like easy.
Exactly. Yeah, I was telling I'm looking forward to the problem cycling back in difficulty. It'll be like a nice break.
Yeah, for sure. I think, I mean, this book probably like, I think 2200 and up is like a good level for this book. It's called Perfect Your Chess. But yeah, I always feel like with these books, it's like if you set up the problems and you try your best, like you just think for 15 minutes, you come up with some ideas. Most of them aren't good, but it doesn't matter. And then yeah, you go through the solution, you try to put yourself in the shoes of the GM player who, you know, play the combination or whatever, and you kind of get a feeling for what that's like during the game, to see an interesting idea, sacrifice, backup variations, what kind of lines had to be calculated. I think the book does a pretty good job of like showing like what was the critical line of the position that like needed to have been foreseen in order to make the idea work.
Yeah, and I think the most important thing is like the point of doing the book is just kind of to struggle with it. Like I had a very similar experience when I read Dvoretsky's Endgame Manual, which took me like a year to finish. I read it like 4 years ago or so, and when the exercises got hard in like the Rook Endgame chapter and a lot of the tough chapters, I was just striking out on a lot of puzzles. But the book improved my like intuition for the end game. Like by the end of that book, I had a better feel for like where my pieces were supposed to go, and like I noticed that in time pressure, I was making better end game moves and this kind of thing. So I think that just struggling with these puzzles and kind of uh, striking out sometimes is sort of the point of doing a book like this.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. Did you go through the entire endgame manual?
I did. I went through the whole thing.
Wow, that's awesome. You're a better man than me. I'm like, I tried. I went through as much as I could, but I mean, it was just like just very technical. I mean, it weighs on you.
It's a hard book. I think it's the hardest book that I've ever read on any topic, and I still don't understand this 3 versus 3 rook end game with like one pawn on the A file that he spends like 25 pages on. But
Right.
it's definitely a good book, and I do plan to go back through it one of these days.
Yeah. No. I mean, I think it's like the best endgame book there is. If you're just an extremely ambitious player and you really want to understand endgames at like a grandmaster level. I think Grischuk said like he's read the book 4 times, like cover to cover. Um, and but yeah, I feel like I really wish the material was just organized better, because the way the chapters are organized is like it starts from the simplest positions that everyone should know, basically like positions that you would find in 100 endgames you must know are kind of at the start of Dvoretsky
Yeah.
chapters, and then it works its way up to all the way to basically GM level endgame studies and tragic comedies, where he shows games between two grandmasters that were playing, and like every single one of their moves back to back is like a double question mark move, just showing like how difficult these endgame positions can be and how complex they are, and even like the world's best players are often just guessing in these positions. um,
Yeah, yeah.
so I wish it was more just like, rather than doing that by chapter the way the Silman endgame book does it, where it's like, here's all the endgames you should know, like kind of in order. But I mean, it's not like there's such a clear order to them, but there's a sense of like, here are endgames up to 1800, here are endgames up to 2000, 2200, 23, 24, 25. I feel like there's definitely a very clear set of endgame positions that I have to know when I'm playing at like 2400 level, and then there's a very clear set of endgame positions that I definitely do not know, that are just kind
Right.
of like above my pay grade, that I feel like, okay, would be useful for me to study, but not that practical as like, as in how often I'm actually going to get this. The rook and pawn
Yeah.
positions, definitely I get those a lot, so it makes sense for me to try to know those pretty well. That's very cool that you went through the book. I mean, I think that's, were you solving any like endgame studies while doing that?
No, although a lot of the exercises in the book are endgame studies.
I see. And how would you do on those, or how did you like those?
Liked them a lot. In general, I like endgame studies. And yeah, I think that Dvoretsky, like I was scoring a similar percentage to Perfect Your Chess. Like I was batting around 500. Um, but uh, yeah, I remember that I did decently on a lot of the king and pawn puzzles that were very concrete, but the puzzles gradually became more crazy and chaotic throughout the book.
Yeah, for sure. So Vishchess was asking, is it counterproductive to spend 30 to 45 minutes on a position? I don't think so. I mean, it kind of depends. I usually, when I'm giving homework to the groups, I usually tell them like, spend up to 15 to 20 minutes per problem. Like if any longer and you're not getting it, just stop at that point, because I feel like, well, number one, I don't think you should be suffering while you're doing chess, because then you're like not going to want to train as much if every time you do it's like a slog and you're like having to push yourself and not finding ideas. Like it feels nice to find the right idea, and so if you do that more often during your training, you'll probably start training more often. I think Agarth often says like, training is meant to build you up, not knock you down. So like it's okay if it's like 60% of the problems are easy for you and then you're just challenging yourself at the end, because like you're going to get into the habit of calculating more, you just end up doing more anyway. So I feel like for me it's like, okay, if you're working through some position, now if you're analyzing a game and you're spending 30 to 45 minutes, that's absolutely fine.
Right.
I assume the question is more like just thinking about one position without moving the pieces for like half an hour or 45 minutes, which some players do. I think that's okay as long as you feel like you're actually generating new ideas. But I think for most players, after 20 minutes, you're kind of just recalculating the same lines over and over again. It's really hard to push yourself to see further. So if you are, then by all means, it's probably very good for your visualization. But I found that it's usually not, it's like a lack of increasing returns.
Yeah, I've definitely fallen into that trap a lot. Like this is something that I used to do when I solved chess tempo puzzles, which I'm a big fan of the puzzles on chess tempo. I remember frequently I would spend like 45 minutes or an hour on some puzzle, and there was definitely a question of whether like A, it was providing any useful kind of training stimulus, because you can't do such a thing like in a real chess game, and B, the thing that you mentioned where you're just calculating the same lines over and over and over is definitely a pattern that you fall into. And now especially in my current situation where I have kind of a crazy life at the moment due to quarantine, like no childcare, and me and my wife are both working. Like there's a time constraint for me to spending so long on these puzzles. Like if I were to spend 45 minutes on multiple puzzles, like I just wouldn't be able to complete the quota that I want to do in a day.
Yeah. So actually, why don't we do this? You also have a Karpov game that we could show the stream, that just taken from your book and with some annotations.
Okay.
So if you don't mind loading that in.
Which one are we looking at? The Ruy Lopez or the Maraxi binds?
Well, which one of these games made more of an impression on you?
I think this Maraxi bind did, because it was a good example of Karpov's patience. So I'm going to pull this one up. So this is a game that he's playing against an IM. He is playing in some round robin. I think it's like 1973 at this point, and he's playing a bunch of high level round robins. And so he has certain like customers, like lower rated players that he needs to score points against. And this is one of those guys. So we reach this structure.
Okay, so people keep asking about the book. So the books we've been talking about we were talking about Dvoretsky's Endgame Manual that Todd has read in the past, but is not working on right now. Perfect Your Chess by Volakitin, which is definitely more of a calculation-heavy book. And the book that this game is pulled from is called How Karpov Wins, and it's a collection of Karpov's games.
Yeah, so here he's playing against an IM, and we have this transposition into an English opening. Okay, so
yeah, by Mednes, and Karpov is playing black here.
Yeah, so we reached this position, which kind of reminded me of the Maraxi bind. I guess it's not exactly a Maraxi bind because White's pawn is on e3, but it's this typical position where I wouldn't feel very comfortable because Black is kind of cramped, and it's not so clear to me what to do. I feel like in a lot of these positions I often rush to force some break, like like a b5 break or d5 or something like that, and often get into trouble. And I was impressed with how Karpov just very slowly shores everything up and squeezes his opponent to death. And his opponent in this game kind of gets himself into trouble, while Karpov is just not making any weaknesses and kind of grinding.
Right. So this is 1973 Karpov, so he's on the up and up, and he doesn't know it yet, but he's about to become the world champion.
Right. Yeah, so Karpov's is playing normal moves. Okay, and so then we have this strange this move G4, which is given as dubious. I guess he's planning some kind of kingside attack, but it's not quite appropriate here. But again, this is the kind of move that I definitely wouldn't feel comfortable facing in a game. Yeah, so I think it's actually quite difficult to guess what Black's next move is. His next move surprised me. Do you have any thoughts, Kostya, on what you would play with Black here?
Yeah, actually, I didn't really play through it, so I don't know what it is. Let's see. So, I mean, H6 would definitely be a candidate move, but in my experience, H6 is often not worth it, because when White plays H4 and G5, then they just get kind of more to work with on the king side anyway. I mean,
yeah. So Vishnu in the chat is suggesting knight takes d4 and bishop c6. This is another concrete decision that maybe I might make in this position. Karpov chooses something quite different.
Yeah, I definitely don't think Black was in any rush to do anything. I mean, if we compare this to like an open Sicilian, Black is often just making moves like rook c8, queen c7, knight a5, knight e5, and then like b5, just like very, not really rushing, because there's usually no need. Like long-term Black's play is always happening. So if White hadn't played g4, I would imagine Black's next move was either rook b8 or rook c8, and maybe even queen c7, and just continuing.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't know. I would play rook a c8. I'm just a normal chess player.
Yeah. So Karpov does something kind of in that direction, but a little more subtle. He plays the move queen a7 here.
Okay. Wow.
But queen a7 was just a funny move to me. We'll see why it makes sense later with the way that he regroups his pieces. But it's just funny that White played g4, and Karpov says like I don't care at all that you played g4. I'm just going to play this quiet, slow regrouping move on the queen side.
This is the kind of move I would play to induce, to provoke g4. To be
right.
Don't you want to? Wow, that's okay. I'm not getting the point yet. Is it just to play? Is it to play b5, like knight d4 and b5, or?
Yeah, so he wants to well, okay, so he's going to put his queen on a8 eventually is one of the ideas, but I think the other idea is to play rook b8 and b5.
Oh, I see. Okay.
And I guess his queen is just safer here than it would be on c7, and maybe a rook can now come to c8. But also, yeah, there's this idea of a battery on the long diagonal with queen a8.
Wow.
But yeah, this is a move that I just wouldn't have found. Okay, so
Same.
White continues with his aggression. Karpov moves away. Yeah, knight f3. Yeah, so here's this idea, but Karpov makes a bunch of moves to shore up his king side before going for b5. And I feel like in a lot of these positions, definitely in blitz, but maybe in like a regular game, when White is doing all of this stuff on the king side, I would be in a hurry to get my counterplay in on the queen side. But this is not what he does. He plays e4. Okay, so he plays bishop f8 first.
Mm-hmm.
And then queen f4. So White's mobilizing toward the king side. He plays knight e7.
Wow.
So maybe he's like thinking about some knight g6 or something like that. But yeah, this is very patient. So yeah, now that he's kind of fortified his king side, now he finally breaks with b5.
Now comes b5. Yeah, I mean, it looks like Black's position is just like passive, but he has everything just like defended, and this b5 counterplay is always annoying in every position. Because there's always b4 ideas, you're always threatening to maybe take on c4, and yeah, strategically Black is just like crushing it here.
Yeah, one thing I don't remember seeing in the book, or I don't remember the answer to is why is like c takes b5 bad? I guess maybe a takes b5 is threatening b4.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's just no place for that knight to go, and then, black is just going to take on a2, especially
Yeah,
if everything is hanging. So yeah, this one is pretty annoying for white.
yeah. Okay, so rook d2 is played in the game, I guess, to take the sting out of b takes c4, defend this bishop. So yeah, now is his next regrouping, which makes sense with the g pawn on g5, this bishop c6, and queen a8. And so now immediately he's threatening to go here and take a pawn.
Mm-hmm. Nice pressure.
So white defends this pawn.
What would an engine say about this position? I don't know. Maybe I'll read it later, but it feels like black has white under a lot of pressure.
Yeah, I don't know how objectively bad this position is, but I feel like one of these positions that is probably hard to play practically for white.
Yeah, because long-term white is the one with the weaknesses here. The g-pawn, the e5 square, the queen side. So this is kind of the problem.
Yeah, it may be that this is only like a minus 0.5 because the engine like defends everything perfectly, but in practical chess, I think your expectation as black is pretty good here because white has a lot of things to worry about every move.
Yeah, I would I would feel super comfortable here as black.
All right, so you defend this pawn. More slow build-up. Yeah, this knight c7 is another move that I would not have considered.
Yeah, I guess he's getting the knight back into play, but why now exactly is not clear.
Yeah. It's also kind of a strange move to me because like this knight doesn't have anywhere to go from c7 immediately. I thought this move was kind of mysterious.
Well, it's either he's playing for d5, like some bc4, white wants to take with the bishop, and then d5, and then the knight is definitely supporting that. Or less likely is he wants to play e5, knight e6, which may be an idea in some positions, but here I feel like, I mean, it's okay to give one square, but to give the d5 and the f5 square feels too much. So my guess is he's playing for bc and d5.
Yeah, I guess maybe he was also anticipating white's next idea. I forgot that he does this now. But white goes knight d5
Wow.
right away. Because yeah, this is bad.
Oh, it's not a real sack because the rook is hanging. I see.
Yeah. So we can't do this, but now he has b takes c4.
He just takes on c4. Wow, I played knight d5. He ignores it, and knight f6 check. He's not getting mated. Just take and knight g6, huh?
Yeah, I think so. And the bishop is a good defender.
Yeah. Oh, Dirtom says, I still don't know how to clear my mind when facing title players. I've had that a little bit when I've played like actual superstars. Like in the last couple of years, I played Kramnik and then Ivanchuk in like tournament games, and those games were hard. It was really hard to focus, like because it was a serious chess game. Like I was still trying to win and stuff. It was just very difficult to focus when you're playing someone that you have like a ton of respect for. I think with experience it gets better. Like my first time playing Grandmasters was definitely intimidating, and then over time it got more comfortable. It's never going to be 100% comfortable, but it's definitely better now than it was at the start. You kind of get used to it. But yeah, it's just a matter of having experience and just remembering that everyone is human. Everyone can make mistakes, and so no one is unbeatable.
Yeah, that's definitely a good point. It takes some experience to kind of actually believe that players of various levels are human. It's almost like you have to play a game with them where you actually witness them making some mistake to kind of get a real feel for this being true. This is a good point.
Yeah, absolutely. It's like you need. It's almost like you're giving yourself permission psychologically to believe that you can beat a higher rated player.
Yeah.
Which I think it's hard to explain in chess, but it somehow feels very relevant because maybe it has something to do with. Because when you think you're winning a game, you're going to be looking for more dynamic moves. If deep down you don't think you're winning the game, you're going to be looking for kind of safer moves, and you're less likely to kind of find some kind of knockout combination, or to even look for one in the first place.
Right.
Okay, so B takes C4, exclam.
Yeah. So knight takes E7 check. He gave some line here that after bishop takes, we can take this knight. Takes. Yeah, so knight takes, and then this doesn't do anything, because white's position is loose at the end.
Mm-hmm. So let's see, what's the evaluation here? Black is much better?
Yeah, he says white's position is much too open. And yeah, I guess there are just various threats, right? Like bishop h1 is a threat, bishop f3 might be useful.
Yeah, this bishop is way too strong.
Yeah, this bishop is a good defender. We can play rook e8 and rook e2, maybe.
Right. Let's go back a sec. I just want to see how... So what if white had taken with the pawn here?
Can I take your knight now?
Oh,
because I have bishop a4.
That's right. See, that's the kind of attention to detail that made Karpov strong player. So white can't take back with the pawn, so he can't like re-support the knight. So it's just a very concrete decision to take here. So
yeah.
And then if bishop c4, now black has enough to take on d5 and have this position. Yeah, like bishop e6 is good here. I think, yeah, almost any move. And black is just much better. Yeah, if this queen gets to e4, it's going to be painful.
Yeah, so maybe bishop e6 and d5 right away or something.
Right. Gotcha. So that's why white takes on e7.
Right, so takes
b7.
And yeah, now b takes c4, taking with the pawn is forced because he had to watch the e4 pawn.
Mm-hmm. Sure.
And yeah, he makes some comment now that white is the one who continually has to worry about weaknesses and black refuses to create them, which clearly so far has been true. It's actually kind of funny how many weaknesses there are in the white position now. Like this pawn is weak, g2 is weak, whereas black's pawn structure is very like pristine here. So g6,
Mm-hmm.
bishop c3. Yeah, and so now he has another patient move. Another idea I might not find right away. He just plays a5, grabbing a little space on the queen side.
Yeah,
makes sense. He makes some comment here that it's surprising how bad white's position seems, because since playing g4, it seems like white hasn't done anything crazy, right? Which is kind of true. Like he hasn't made any rash decisions, but his position is definitely significantly creaking here.
Yeah, that's like saying like, oh well, since losing my job, I haven't done anything crazy. It's like, I mean, g4, I mean, is just like, this is forever, you know. This is
it's true.
It's a long-term decision. I mean, I guess I feel like black's one issue in this position is actually just this knight on c7. Like, it needs to be either on c5 or e5 here.
Mm-hmm.
Before black is really able to put pressure. But yeah, long term, this c4 pawn I found like is often just becoming a huge weakness, and just pushing this one to a3 is kind of like improving the structure like long term, and we're always like going after this a2 pawn in the end. Okay, Blazin is saying Leela thinks bishop c4 was actually playable here, because if bishop takes e4, there's rook e2. Okay, so d5, rook e4. This one I can see. What's happening here? Are we getting a rook takes e6?
Maybe. Bishop d5 takes, and rook takes e6 looks possible.
Oh, nice. Yeah. Take.
Even here, I question whether I have.
Yeah, I know, right? Like, it's like this diagonal is just really nice. Why bishop d5? I mean, you know, as humans, we wanted to just defend this weak point on e6. Bishop c6 definitely makes sense as well. And then apparently white has g6. Oof.
So his kingside attack dreams are coming true now.
Yeah, g6 is huge. Oh, but hg, hold on. Okay, I guess.
So he can take either on. Oh, he can't take on e6. I have a knight on c7.
Yeah.
So knight takes g6 maybe.
So take. Queen g6.
Why not take on e6?
I don't know. This looks good too. Okay, let's say take. Queen takes. And where's the? Where's the checkmate here? Maybe just queen g6.
Yeah, I was thinking something like rook d4 in this position. Some kind of rook lift anyway, but it's not so easy.
Blazin saying queen g6 was better. And then this idea, rook e3, rook h3. I mean, yeah, that makes sense. Okay, it looks like white is just killing here. So both players kind of bungled this one. Like, I mean, this is kind of findable. I mean, rook e2, g6.
Yeah, I mean it's very easy to overlook. Also, like it's easy to just dismiss this because the e pawn is hanging for starters, but it takes a little extra to see that you have the idea of g6 coming from a distance.
Yeah, especially again when you're playing Karpov. You know, like, you know, if you play bishop c4, you know he's going to take your pawn if he can. So sometimes these kinds of moves are kind of like a free roll for the opponent, because Karpov can calculate, and he's like, if he thinks he can take the pawn, he'll take the pawn and beat you. And then if he doesn't, if he thinks it's too dangerous, then you'll be like, okay, no thanks, we'll keep playing the position.
Right,
so
right.
It's risky. My guess is like he just thought the pawn was hanging. I mean, it takes work to really like justify it, like rook e2, g6. Like it's much easier to just think like I have to go bc.
Right.
But then the interesting thing would be like, what would have happened if white had played here? Would Karpov grab this pawn or not? My guess is no. My guess he would have just been like, well, what does white have? Rook e2, g6. Like, and just he just probably just continues the game, and plays like g6 or something.
Yeah, that's a good point. That would be a very Karpovian sort of choice, I think.
Yeah, it's kind of a bummer for white. Okay, so he goes BC, A5, or G6 first, bishop C3, A5.
Yeah, so now Karpov moves everything backwards again. He makes a bunch of sort of surprising moves. He plays knight e8 here. And rook d8, knight d4, and bishop d7. So this is like a regrouping that I just wouldn't have considered at all. Like this knight e8, rook d8, bishop d7. Just wouldn't have occurred to me as an idea, I think.
I'm with you. Yeah, I mean it's pretty surprising.
Okay, so e5 and yeah, I guess the idea is d takes e5, knight f3 is given in the book, and so he's going to get back the pawn and maybe have some attacking chances. And so he plays another tricky defensive move. He plays bishop f8.
So he just backs this one up. Okay, I mean it's definitely thematic.
And knight e2. And now d5. So yeah, I guess that after something like this, we're just consolidating, because this is with tempo. So yeah, white plays rook d3 instead. He's intending some rook h3 and attacking chances. But yeah, rook bc8 is creating a bunch of new pins. So yeah, c takes, e takes, and queen h4. And I was trying to remember why he has to play c takes, like why he can't just play this. Oh, I guess we have rook takes c4 now.
Yeah, rook c4 looks pretty good.
Yeah, the queen doesn't have a good square to go to.
Yeah, you know, these Sicilian structures are very hard, actually. It can be hard to give mate in these positions. I mean, it looks like white has so much space on the king side, but like black's position is very solid, especially this g6 against the bishop on c2. It's very hard to break for white. And so either the dark square bishop is a king or it's not. And like black is just covering this diagonal, it's hard for white to come up with real targets. So 92, so d5, very nice. So he's just like willingly taking the Isolani here. I guess what would he want after queen h4?
I mean, I guess we have to play bishop e6, right?
No, that was not obvious to me at all.
And maybe this is coming?
Yeah, we definitely want knight g7, knight f5.
Also, rook c8 and rook c4.
Yeah, it looks nice for black. I mean, it's weird. It's an Isolani, but white just has too many weaknesses, it feels like, in the position to really justify it. Okay, now is knight takes e6 a threat? Not really sure.
Yeah, I'm
You're right.
guessing it's not so bad. Yeah, I would
Yeah.
think rook bc8 here.
Yeah, I kind of, the more I look at it, the more I like black's position. This knight, yeah, just gets to f5 and bishop c5, and yeah, just having so much pressure. It's a very nice counterattack. I mean, basically, this is it turned into a Sicilian at this point, because this is just like, it's such a shenanigan, just no development, everything on the back rank, but white has these long-term weaknesses that black is just gonna put pressure on. So rook d3, I guess this looks like a bad move. Rook c8. And now white, yeah, what is white doing with this pawn?
Yeah, I guess if bishop b3, we have a4.
Yeah. Yeah.
c5, pitching the pawn is not helping. We just take it. Yeah, and if rook h3, we can just take it, so.
Takes, queen h4, bishop f5.
Yeah, and so this is winning material now, I think. Actually, why can you not play rook back to d2?
Rook c4 is an annoying start.
Maybe I have this move.
d4 is also... Yeah, d4. Oh my god. It's just killing. Oof.
Yeah, just take something next, I guess.
It looks like something's hanging. Yeah, it just looks like this is just bad. That's the power of the isolated pawn. As soon as it pushes, it's just like everything breaks open. So white goes e6.
Yeah. Alright, so we take it. Knight d4. Yeah, so I guess this is similar to that other line that we were looking at, where once he gets these two pawns on e6 and d5, these pawns are pretty solid.
Yeah, and now one of them is extra.
Yeah.
And this light scored bishop is just such a bad piece that, yeah, as soon as we trade the bishops, it's kind of over. Okay, so queen c6. So yeah, extra pawn. It doesn't matter that white's king is weak. You know, endgame is good for black.
Right. Right.
He's happy.
Yeah, and all the important dark squares are covered at the moment. Yeah, so queen d6, centralize the queen and push this queen away. Oh yeah, this is like another typical Karpov move, this king g8, just stepping out of the way of stuff.
Yeah, king j is not obvious to me at all against this bishop on b3.
Yeah, I mean, I think that this is really typical, like, of a Karpov move that surprised me. Like, if I was in this position, I would almost certainly be looking to do something active, like, you know, this move or something. King g8 is the kind of like prophylaxis that just doesn't cross my mind.
Yeah.
In a real game.
It's very surprising.
It makes sense in retrospect. Like, white can't do anything active, and he had these annoying checks on the long diagonal, and so we step away. The king is very safe here because of these pawns. This diagonal is never going to open up, so it definitely has some logic to it.
Yeah.
So f4, knight g7.
It was knight g7.
Yeah, I guess that he's considering this, and he's also defending e6 so that his queen can move.
Well, this makes a lot of sense. Yeah, especially now that white has played f4. You can just go after this pawn. This is like... But how did he know white was going to play f4? like king g8, he's just like ready f4 knight g7 to just immediately reroute and take this pawn. I wonder if that was just kind of serendipitous.
Right, yeah, maybe.
So queen b6, rook b5, rook c1, rook f8, rook d3. Yeah, just slowly going for it.
Yeah, this is probably a little desperate, this f5 move.
Yeah, I guess the pawn was just falling anyway after knight h5. So takes a3, rook h4, bishop d1, queen e5, queen f2, rook e4, nice, knight h4, and game over. Cool. Yeah, last part of this game was like very smooth. Just, I mean, this is just a very nice position for black. I think a lot of players could make it look easy.
Yeah, but this other stuff beginning with this d5 break was not so easy at all, I think. And then all of these retreats that happened later to consolidate his position were not simple.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, he played very defensively for most of this game, let white made his weaknesses, and then kind of wiggled out and eventually started to, once he got d5 in, it was pretty big.
Yeah.
Is it worth understanding why queen f3 versus queen h4 is an important point? Yeah, I think this was a Leela move. Was this here? We had queen f3? I think it was after maybe e5?
It was... Oh, he says 2 moves after d5.
Oh, after d5. d3, c8, take.
Oh, so white is supposed to play queen f3 here?
Yeah, I guess this is Leela's wreck. I mean, it makes sense. I'm not gonna argue with Leela. I guess white was still trying to go for the attack.
Yeah, that's the idea of queen h4 for sure.
Well, I guess white's point is just defending this one, so now the d4 doesn't seem to be working. It still feels like a really comfortable position for black, just because of the light score weaknesses. I'm surprised Leela thinks white has any advantage here.
Yeah, maybe it doesn't like these some of black's backward pieces.
Well, there's no bishop takes f5 because here black can just take on c2. Yeah, I think there's just some deeper tactical point here that we're just like, it's hard to anticipate from afar. Like maybe knight f4, knight takes d5, but I don't know. Definitely, it's surprising.
So does Leela like this position for white?
I think he was saying Leela was calling it slightly better here. Oh, question for you, Todd. What was your chess tempo standard rating, I guess, and your USCF when you were using it?
Yeah, I actually started using chess tempo when I was an expert. So I was like in the 2000s. I started using it in like 2012 or something like that. And I really became obsessed with the site. I have lots and lots of attempts on there. And over a period of time, my chess tempo standard rating went from around 2000 to recently, like last year, I hit a peak of 2300. But just doing all of those puzzles, I feel like I absorbed a lot of patterns that I didn't know like cold. Just seeing kind of the same little attacking patterns over and over, and things like that. I got better at tactics and attacking and calculation. And one interesting thing that I noticed, which really surprised me during that period, is that between my climb from 2000 to 2200, I noticed that I got a lot more reliable and faster at spotting mate in one during calculation, which was surprising to me because it's like such a fundamental thing. But my like checkmate patterns from a distance got much sharper from all of these tactics.
Nice. Yeah, I mean, mate in ones sound simple, obviously, but if it's a mate in one you have to see in your visualization, then it's not always that easy. So yeah, I could imagine how those patterns would be helpful. Did you ever try that game that came out like last year or 2 years ago where it was
Yeah.
you had like 10 seconds to find a mate in one? You just see how long you can go. What was like your best score on that?
Oh, I don't remember what my score was. I just remember thinking, like, I think that I had something normal for like 2200 player, but I just remember how instructive it was that, like, so reliably, the better you were at chess, the faster you saw these maiden ones. Like, just all the way up the rating scale, the data seemed so reliable. Like your maiden one CPU just got a little bit faster, the better you were at chess.
Oh, that's cool. Was there actual stats on this?
Yeah, somebody posted some Reddit thread about it or something.
Oh, nice. Yeah, I'll have to find the link. I'll put it up in the dojo. But yeah, it was basically this game where you had 10 seconds and every problem would be a mate in one. There would be exactly one way to mate. And if you could find it in 10 seconds, then you just go to the next problem. It was really hard because, okay, obviously you have to stay focused the whole time, so you can't take any breaks. So you're basically like, you have to respond in 10 seconds for every single problem. And each individual problem might not be that difficult, but it's just like the consistency that I think gets most players. Although some problems were legitimately hard because there's like 8 checks in the position and the king is open and you're scrambling to figure out like what squares are covered, what checks are available, what's mate. It's easy to find like a false mate, something that doesn't work, of course. One trick that I learned is that if you have a pawn on the 7th rank, just push it. It's either a queen promotion checkmate or a knight promotion checkmate, and you don't have to decide because the program just assumes you've figured it out.
Yeah, I think this thing was like a precursor to Puzzle Rush, actually. It came out a little before Puzzle Rush did.
That's true, yeah, and then Puzzle Rush came out and got all of the hype.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was...
Yeah, this was like a little app that somebody made in their, like, as a personal project or something.
Yeah, and the cool thing was you could configure it as well. So if you wanted to give yourself like a minute or something, you could just do that. It's just 10 second was like the default that everyone was sharing. I think my best score on that, I didn't do it that much because I was so annoyed. I didn't like doing it. But my best score I think was like maybe I got to 100 or 105. But then there was this kid, Christopher Yu, who's very well known, like one of the
I remember this.
youngest IMs. He started doing it and then he got up to like, his number was like 550 or something, or 450 of puzzles in a row. I mean, it was just insane. Like, I didn't hear anyone that came close to him.
Yeah, so it's Christopher Yu is really good at
correlation. This. Yeah. When it comes to puzzles, he's just like he's an absolute monster. Yeah, unfortunately, he's actually, I think we talked about him in one of these shows recently, but he's a player that kind of got hit really hard by the quarantine because he was on a deadline to get his last GM norm to be the youngest ever US Grandmaster. I think he has until like July or something of this year. Of course, he was going to play a bunch of norm tournaments this year, and he's already scored 2, so he's clearly capable. But now it's like tough luck.
Yeah, he's just going to have nothing now. Yeah.
Yes, that's unfortunate. Okay, we were gonna look at one of your games, but we don't quite have time for that. I did want to ask you though, because it was a dragon. I don't know if we talked about this. Is Sicilian Dragon your main repertoire for Black?
Yes, I've been playing the dragon for like a long time now, like 7 years or something.
Oh wow, cool. You probably told me that. I think I just forgot. So you got so you're a dragon player and a King's Indian player. Maybe we can do a quick quick talk about your openings.
Yeah, yeah. So my black openings I've been playing for a long time. I've been playing the Dragon and King's Indian. The Dragon I'm very comfortable with. Certain anti-Sicilians I'm a little shaky on, but I feel like even against a GM, I feel happy playing a Dragon. It's really my kind of position.
Which anti-Sicilians do you have issues with?
Closed Sicilian I'm better at than I used to be. I'm not comfortable with most of the bishop b5 lines.
Like,
I don't like that stuff.
oh, knight f3 and bishop b5.
Yeah. So this.
Oh yeah, this is a big one.
Yeah. So I played knight c6 here. But yeah, I'm never super happy to play these positions, especially when they like when they castle or whatever. If they play d4 immediately, we go into these queen takes lines, which I feel reasonably confident against. But some of the more positional lines here, I'm not super happy to see. But yeah, I play the Dragon and the King's Indian. Against white, I used to play d4. I had a d4 repertoire that I played for a long time. And about a year ago, I came back to chess after not playing much in the past year or two when we had a couple of new babies. And my d4 repertoire was rusty, so I figured that I would switch to this e4 repertoire that I always wanted to learn. And I made like a really poor and impractical choice of building a repertoire around all of the Nagy books, these books by Parimarjan Nagy.
Yeah.
It's like this 5-volume series that is like just like a million pages and isn't even completed yet.
Quality chess.
Yeah, the books are extremely high quality and like the analysis in them is great. And when I've succeeded in playing like his lines out to like move 15 or 20 or whatever, I typically get great positions and often win. But I just bit off so much more than I could chew practically in terms of like all of this stuff to learn. So like now it's a year later and I kind of half know this repertoire, and I'm playing the King's Gambit as white because he hasn't written a book on e4 e5 yet, and it's still kind of a tenuous situation with my white repertoire.
Right. Yeah. Well, okay. There's a ton of stuff to unpack. I mean, right now I would put this this bishop b5 line as maybe one of your maybe highest priority openings to work on, just because bishop b5 Sicilians are very popular and maybe even getting more so in the last couple of years. So if this is something that you feel uncomfortable, you never want to be unhappy in the opening. That means like you have a problem, you gotta fix it. Like you want a position that you find fun, and if you want to just go like full Magnus and just like copy what he does in some of these systems, like because he ends up finding some tricky lines where objectively he might be worse, but he's getting a lot of like long-term middle game play. I'm sure there's tons of players you could follow here on the black side who are getting like fighting positions and getting something fun. King's Gambit is definitely one we'll have to talk about. I mean, my feeling is like whatever works. So if you really enjoy the King's Gambit, then I think you should just play it until it becomes a problem where like every time you face a high rated player, you're losing with white. Then it's like, okay, maybe like it's not working for you. You'll have to switch it up. But until that moment comes, I would say it's not a huge priority, because at least you enjoy the positions, even if objectively your opponent is getting decent chances. And I would say a lot of players are not well prepared for the King's Gambit. So if you really know what you're doing there, you can pose your problems.
That's definitely true. Yeah, I found that it's a very effective weapon against lower rated players who often quickly go wrong.
Yeah, because people don't view the King's Gambit as like a main line opening, a mainstream like Rui Lopez or Italian game, so they spend a lot less time looking at it. But it's
they also probably rarely see it. That's the other thing. People rarely face it in tournament play.
Yeah, and so you actually do need experience against the King's Gambit, because there are some positions where it's like, yeah, the engine will tell you it's minus 1.5, but then the move you play is a losing move. So what good was that engine advantage if you don't, like, if it's a difficult position? You really have to know what you're doing there. Okay, so I guess we'll have to. Yeah, I would say this one might be one of the big lines you might need to work on. People were asking about your dragon repertoire. Do you have any tricks in the 9 bishop c4 line? So I guess people
Yeah,
want to know. Mm-hmm.
I played the Topalov system there, so c3, g6, bishop b3, as well as queen d2, knight c6, 9, bishop c4. I actually had I can show really quickly. I did get to play some trick actually in this line in a blitz game today.
Sure, people love tricks.
Bishop d7, castle. This move is kind of amazing, and there's a funny story. So this is the line that I play. This is called the Topalov line because I guess Topalov popularized it. And now there are a few moves here. The main one that people play is knight d5. Right. But they can also snatch this pawn. But they have to be careful. And I played some WIM from Russia, I think, in Blitz today, who took this pawn. So b4, knight d5, takes, and now queen a5 is kicking the bishop. And here white has to really be careful, because if bishop e3, there's a surprising win with rook c3.
Rook c3. I thought you mouse slipped. I thought it was going to c2.
No, so here I'm just carving out this bishop. I'm like taking this bishop next, and there's like nothing that you can do.
Wow.
So this is one surprising win, but
that's pretty nice. You've heard of rook takes c3, but now check out rook c3.
Yeah, I remember, like, I found this with the computer a long time ago. I was like, what if white plays bishop e3 here? It's like looks so natural. But yeah, rook c3 is the answer. And if bishop d4, so this is I was happy to play this today because last year I reached this position in a tournament game and I wasn't confident enough in my memory of the theory here to make the move work, and so I picked a different move and ended up losing to a lower rated player in this position. But here the correct move is to play rook takes c2.
Wow.
Which is really audacious because there's like 3 ways that white can capture this, and like your attack is so slow. So like king takes c2 is getting destroyed immediately by like bishop f5 check. And like there's like kind of an instant mating net. Rook c8 is coming, so this is nonsense. Queen takes c2 is maybe white's best reply, and then we go into some queen versus 2 rooks endgame where maybe black has a little pull, but it's only a slight advantage. Yeah. But on bishop takes c2, the idea is that we play queen takes a2, and we just have some slow attack. And yeah, on like queen e3, the idea is rook c8, and we're threatening rook takes c2 again.
This is definitely the line where I would have the most trouble with like making it work. And I think most players would, because it feels so slow. Like queen takes a2, queen e3.
You basically have to know it. Like there's no way. It's so hard to have confidence from a distance that like rook c8 and plans takes c2 here works. You have to know that it's correct, or it's like impossible to play almost.
Yeah, so I guess king d2 we're taking on c2.
Yeah, so like I think that's correct. Like I'm like again a little uncertain that this line is so tricky.
Bishop a4, king goes.
Yeah, this line is so strange. Maybe rook takes c2 is not correct.
No, but there are other moves here. I mean, there's like this, for example.
Oh, there's queen c4, right?
King b1, like bishop f5 is a big problem.
No. This is the correct move. It's queen c4, and then we get something back.
I see. But yeah, this one I was still confused because there's like queen d3 at the end. And are we really just playing queen takes d5? Like 2 bishops versus 2 rooks, your move? Like Bishop F5.
Potentially. Yeah, I guess there's no bishop c3 tricks here, so yeah, why not? Why not this? I guess.
It's surprising, but I mean, there is threats. Like if the king is going to e2 or c2, it's queen is getting lost. Yeah, maybe. Well, I mean, yeah, I'm sure it's working for black. I'm sure it's, engine checked. So yeah, that's fun. Is that how your game went today?
Yeah, and actually she fell into some quick trap with So yeah, I played queen takes a2 here, and then she took on b4,
Oof.
and then here, and then this is just mating.
Oh, you love to see it. Nice.
But yeah, I think that in general these positions after takes and b5 are very pleasant. There's one more little trap here. If they play carelessly, if they place like h4, a5, if they play a4 ever to stop your queenside expansion, this is always wrong, and I've had this in one tournament game as well, where you take and then rook c4 is a fork because of bishop b3 and knight takes c4.
Nice, yeah.
So this line is quite trappy if white doesn't know what they're doing.
Wow. All right, there you go. He who never showers. That's what you should do. All right, guys, I gotta wrap up the show here, but thanks, Todd, for joining me, and yeah, we will be just continuing next week. At some point I want to get more players involved in the show, maybe do a little, like, I don't know, tournament or like solving competition. I don't know, I just want to do something fun with some more players, but yeah, something to look forward to in the future.
Cool, absolutely.
Yeah, thanks everyone for tuning in. We'll catch you guys next time.
Thanks, guys. See you next time.